We're live. We're live. Welcome to the Pinstripe Chronicles. It's Rob and Donald, and today we're going to be answering your questions. So whatever questions you might have for us in the chat, put them in there. We're going to answer them, talk some Yankees baseball. We're going to do that right here, live on the Pinstripe Chronicles. All right, we're back. We're back, and it is time to get some questions in there. So we already got some people watching. So if you got some questions for us, please put them in there. But I'll ask a question to you to start things off, Donald, because yesterday there was some news that came out. The Yankees are checking in, engaged, whatever you want to call it, with Jurickson Profar. How would you feel if he was our left fielder in 2023?
Be fine. Listen, it doesn't preclude us from continuing to negotiate with Pittsburgh for Reynolds, but we do need an upgrade over Aaron Hicks. Aaron Hicks has no business starting left field. He got to go. We need to get rid of him. I don't care what it costs, what it takes. He's got to go. I like Profar. He's not the best defensive left fielder, but it doesn't really matter because he's actually a pretty good bat. He'll give you 20 home runs, Yankee Stadium, switch hitter, contact guy, doesn't strike out much. He did fine for the Padres. I think he'd be a plus bat to add there at the bottom of the order. And I'd feel a lot more confident with that than some of the other options. Another positive would allow Ozzie to be used more as a utility guy, the Ben Zobrist type, where he can play all around the infield and outfield. That's where he's most comfortable. I don't want to just stick him in left field and just have him become our left fielder. I think he's better suited in a utility role. I'd be all on board with that as long as the numbers are reasonable. Maybe 1 year option 2. 10 mil per year, something like that, something in that range. I think that would be a fine contract. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I like Profar. I'd be okay with that signing anything to get Aaron Hicks out of the picture. But unless they can get rid of him or they just downright cut him, I got a bad feeling that he's going to be on this roster in some capacity. I don't know if you want to pay $10 million for a backup at this point, but it looks like that's what they're leaning towards. But the fact that they're in on Profar and they're still going with Pittsburgh trying to get Reynolds, they're trying to do something. They are trying to do something. So we'll see what, if anything, takes place between now and spring training, which leads us to our first question. But first, what's up to Tony and Tony. To Brad in the chat? What's up, guys? Thanks for popping in. And the first question is from Mr. Elliot Spencer. He says, I do not like fans that count down the days to spring training and opening day. What do you think of fans that post those countdowns? I think they're just bored and they want baseball. And they're just waiting for spring. I'm excited for the season. But I don't really get excited for spring training because if you want to count down to the regular season, go ahead and be my guest. But it's spring training. It's the most boring. To me, that's the most boring part of the year. More boring than the off season because nothing really happens in spring. You're waiting. After a week, you're like, okay, get the season going because you watch like 3 spring training games. You're like, I'm not going to ever see this guy play for the Yankees in the regular season. So I get bored of spring training very quickly. I don't know how you feel about that.
The first week of spring training is a nightmare because you don't really see any of your regulars anyway. I quite like aspects to it because it allows you to see the prospects, which obviously there's a good chance.
He's cutting in and out here. Donald, you still with us? I think Donald has left the building. In the middle. Oh, no. I can't tell. Donald has frozen. It's completely frozen on me. Donald is completely frozen. I don't know if anyone in the chat, if maybe it's me that's frozen, if you can let us know. Donald's like cutting in and out right now. So, yep, there he goes. Yep. Okay, I wasn't going crazy. So Donald just flat out left. But yeah, that was interesting. Donald, that's a good look. Frozen Donald. What's up, Chris? It's been a while to see you in the chat. Welcome. Thank you for popping in. How's it going? Tony, do you think DJ's toe will be an issue? Kind of want Donald to be in here for that. I don't know, but about DJ's toe, because from what we're hearing, from what the reports are saying, that he's going to be okay, but he avoided surgery. That's a good thing. I'm not really sure, though. I really, really don't know, because if that's what's going to be hindering him all season long, I would rather him just get the surgery. So, and I don't know how long he would miss with that, but it's such a weird injury because it kept him from really swinging the bat well last year, and then it obviously kept him out of the entire postseason. But he's a bat that we need. We desperately need DJ. Boba. Oh God, I don't know about all that. I'm not a big. I know that's a Star Wars thing, but I'm not big on Star Wars. And you've been. Well, hope you're feeling better, my man. It's good to see you, though. Donald has left the building. Brad says I'm good. I know. Tony. Yankee fans have such a short memory regarding Clay Holmes, the closer that blew a lot of games last season. How confident are you in him as a closer? I think he can be a really good closer. We saw it last year. He was an all-star for a reason. His stuff is filthy. For whatever reason, he lost that in the second half of the season. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. It's very rare that you find a closer that doesn't have a hiccup, but his hiccup lasted a long time. And Donald is back. We lost you there for a second, buddy.
I know. Sorry about that.
But I was reading a question here from Tony about Clay Holmes. Are you confident in him as a closer, or do you think that they should use the spring? Goes back to the earlier question. Should they use the spring to kind of figure out that closer role for the new season?
I'm not confident in Clay Holmes. Absolutely not. I don't view us as having a closer. I don't like the idea of closer by committee either. Most likely scenario is he is our closer. But I think we should add another reliever in free agency. But yeah, I'm not confident. We'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, gone are the days where you'd have like a Mariano Rivera where you know that the ninth inning is absolutely locked down. I think this is maybe this is like 2 years in a row now where I don't know who our closer is, and it's not a great situation to be in. I think it's an underrated issue that people aren't really taking enough notice of, because for me, Clay Holmes' sinker, well, it comes and goes a little bit. Like when it's on, it's untouchable and it's fantastic. But if he loses it, then he leaves it up and he gets crushed. And that's what I'm worried about, because that's what happened to him this year. Is like for the first couple of months, like actually for the first half the year till around about July, he was untouchable, best closer in baseball. Then after that, for the next 2 months, he was absolutely useless. But then he got himself back together in time for October, and he looked pretty good. So I don't know. It's a little up in the air for me. So to answer your question, no, I don't necessarily trust our closer situation.
Yeah, I was saying before you came back in that his stuff is disgusting, which is something you've already mentioned. He's got the stuff to be a dominant and elite closer. However, if he can avoid a 2-month-long hiccup, I think he can be a really good, but we can't have a closer with a 2-month span of just being completely useless. So they got to figure it out. I would prefer Loaisiga or King, but I feel like it's going to be Holmes first. And then if he struggles out of the gate, they'll have to move on. But yeah, gone are the days of Mariano or David Robertson, or even that 2 years or the year span we had Rafael Soriano closing out games. We don't have that anymore. Some teams do. Mets have Edwin Diaz. Some teams have a true closer, but the Yankees right now are going to go by committee unless someone just takes the ball and runs with it. Brad, do you like having only one lefty in the bullpen? Absolutely not.
Nope.
That's why I didn't want them to let go of Litke. But if they can clear some money, which
I want Andrew Chafin.
Yes, that is the guy. That is the guy I want desperately in this bullpen. I think he completes it because then you really have no weaknesses in this bullpen. If you add Chafin, you got 2 lefties, you got a bunch of dominating right-handed pitchers that can get lefties out as well, and it gives Aaron Boone opportunities to match up certain innings to get 3 outs whenever he needs them. So I would love Chafin. Will they pay for him? Maybe his price drops now that we're getting closer to spring training, but they should look to add another lefty because having one, especially in today's day and age, is certainly not great. Let's see what Tony says here. I still remember Brewers game last season where Donald Lawson on air about Clay. Yeah, over on the Boys in the Big Apple.
I told you about Clay Holmes. What did I tell you about Clay Holmes? That was basically it.
Yep. He lost
more
his mind.
swearing.
Yeah, a little bit more, just a little bit more swearing. that was basically that rant that he went on was pretty much Yankee fans just all in one, just coming up and saying what they wanted to say. All came through Donald though, but yeah, he echoed everyone's feelings. Do the Yankees finally let the rookies play this season? They're going to have to at shortstop and potentially second base, depending on where they put Peraza and Volpe. They're not trading them. They've been very, very vocal about not trading them. And the fact that Hal Steinbrenner talked about them before the offseason really started, and Cashman then echoed it by saying that Volpe could potentially win the shortstop job out of the spring. They're going all in on those guys. Cabrera is going to be all over the field, so he can't be. I never liked him being locked into one position, but they're going to let these kids play, and I think that's the right choice because obviously you've passed up on 2 generational free agent classes of shortstop. You have to move forward with these guys. If you're not moving them, one's ready, and the other one's just about to be major league ready. It's the right move.
Oswald Peraza has to start at shortstop, like right out of the gate, has to. I really don't understand why we picked up IKF's option. Like, why did we do that? We've got a glut of infielders. Unless he's used as a trade target or what, but all this does is kind of makes me very concerned that the Yankees are going to try and find a way to needle him in at shortstop.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I hope they don't.
I mean, but even if they do keep him as a backup shortstop, I mean, that's not the worst thing in the world. The thing they have to do is find a way to trade off Josh Donaldson's contract. That has to happen. Because look at the amount of infielders that we have for only really 3 spots. So we've got Gleyber Torres penciled in to start at second, right? You've got Peraza penciled in to start at short. You've got Donaldson at third, right? Then you've also got Volpe, who's ready to go pretty much. Could be ready to go by May, June, right? Then you're looking at LeMahieu, who doesn't really have an organized spot. So that's him. That's a lot of infielders already.
And IKF at 6.
IKF is 6. That's 6 infielders for about 3 spots.
And you can put Cabrera there too, because he can play.
And then Cabrera is 7, potentially 7 for 3 spots. That makes absolutely no sense. And we don't have enough left fielders. We don't have enough left field options. That makes no sense to me at all. In fact, you could argue that we don't have a single left fielder because Ozzie isn't really a natural left fielder. He's actually a natural infielder. And Aaron Hicks is a center fielder, a very, very bad center fielder, asked to play left field. So you could make the argument that we don't have the depth in outfield, but we've got a million infielders. Tell me what sense that makes. Why are they not making any trades to try and free themselves of this terrible glut? And why did they sign themselves up for another year of this glut by picking up IKF's option? Anyone in the chat could please answer those questions for me. I would really appreciate it.
I doubt that they're going to be able to trade Donaldson, but I think that they're going to give it maybe a month and a half. And if he's really, really bad, they'll just eat the money and let him go, kind of like what the Angels did with Justin Upton. But IKF should be a trade target because he's only making $6 million. There are teams that still need infield help, whether it's at third or short. So he should be on the block. I don't think they should trade Gleyber at this point because there's so much uncertainty with DJ. and I don't think Volpe will be ready out of the spring. But you got to clear some spots at some point, and IKF and Donaldson are the two most likely, unless you find a team that's willing to give you an outfielder for Gleyber Torres. I don't know if that team is out there right now, but that's the only way I'd move Gleyber is if you can get a good outfield bat, but I don't know if there's one that's available. So we got a few questions here. Elliot, does Nestor finally have the full confidence of New York Yankee fans, or does he have to prove it again? I feel like each season fans expect the bottom to drop with him. Personally, I think he'll be great. The fact that he went pretty much the entire season minus maybe 4 starts in total where he kind of struggled tells me he's going to be fine. And think about this. He's going to be our number 4 starter this year. He's our number 4 starter, and he would be a number 2. And he was our number 2 last year. Like he's going to be
number 1 this last year.
Yeah, a number. Oh yeah, he's our number 1. So I think the pressure for him to have to be even better is actually it's gone. He doesn't really have a lot of pressure on him. If he pitches normal numbers, even if his ERA goes up to like a 3.2, that from your number 4 starter is perfectly fine. I don't know if he's going to be able to do what he did last year again, but I don't expect him to have like this complete and sudden drop off that people are expecting. So I don't know why people feel that way about Nestor. I love the guy. He's a great story. He's something that you want to follow, and he's an easy player to root for. He's very likable.
He was raced last year. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I have no worries about Nestor Cortes. If the bottom was going to drop, would have dropped last year at some stage. The guy almost pitched a no-hitter at one stage. Guy was our ace. He just was locked down. And the great thing about him is I'm not even sure if it's possible for the bottom to drop out from him, because he's such a old school throwback pitcher where it's about finesse. It's about finding the right way in which to get that batter out, whichever way it is. He doesn't rely on just speed like Aroldis Chapman. He mixes his pitches and mixes his windup up to the point where you lose the rhythm of the batter is thrown off. And to be honest, his fastball plays about 5 to 10 miles per hour harder than it actually is. He only throws about 91, but it comes out much faster because of the way that he delivers it and the windup and his technique and stuff like that. And those kind of things, those are very rare. Very, very rare, and that's why he's so special, and that's why he's Nasty Nestor. So no, I'm not worried about him at all. He'll be absolutely fine next year. I love our rotation. If there's one thing for me that I'm absolutely sure about, it's our rotation.
Yeah, that I agree with. I love the starting, even with Montas being hurt for potentially a month and a half, whatever it may be. I still think Herman or Schmidt as a 5 is perfectly fine. The top 4 in that rotation is disgustingly good.
Yep.
LA Yankee King, would you trade for Dylan Carlson from the Cardinals? If he's available, he's a switch hitting outfielder, that much I know, and he's only like, 25, 24 years old. If he's available, why not? Depending on what it would take. I don't know if it would take too much, but
beggars can't be choosers. We desperately need a decent outfielder, man.
Right. FJ, thank you for popping in. Do you think a team with 3 rookies in the starting lineup can be a World Series champion? Would it be 3? Because I don't know if Cabrera is going to be starting. He might just be off the bench, but it would be Volpe and Peraza. I mean, I wouldn't put anything past it because we had a bunch of young guys in '96 that got the job done, and it's not like, we're talking about these random rookies. These are top prospects from us, and these are guys that are in the top 100, which I think we have like 6 players in the top 100 this year. But if it's Volpe and Peraza, the expectations for them to be really good are already there, and I think they can be. I wouldn't put it past. I wouldn't say that it's a guarantee because obviously they're rookies. They can struggle. But if they do it right this time around and they don't send them down the first sign of struggle and they let them work through their growing pains at the major league level, I think they can develop into really good players. There's too much proof. The Astros did it with a rookie, even though he's a little bit older at shortstop. The Braves are calling up players, and they're a championship-ready team. So it's been done. The Yankees have to learn from other teams and do the right thing by their players, by their prospects, I should say.
100%, yeah. I echo everything you're saying. A lot of our dynasty, everyone was young. Derek Jeter was in his only his second year in 1996, brief outing in 95. So yeah, he was basically a rookie in 96, won a championship. The Astros won a championship last year with a starting shortstop as a rookie. It's to be honest, it's kind of common now at this stage. You want someone who's young that's got upside to develop rather than someone that's old that's just going to have the bottom drop out of them. And that's what Brian Cashman has been doing over the last 10 or so years. He keeps trying these retreads that are ancient, that were MVPs maybe 3 years ago, and the game has long since passed them by. And I much prefer this alternative. So give me somebody where there's upside, where you can grow with him, and you will see a far better product, because at least you kind of know that if you develop them, then you've got something for the next 5, 6, whatever years, as opposed to someone who's dusted like Josh Donaldson, who's going to cost you like freaking $50 million to do absolutely nothing. So this is a much, much better alternative. I want to see our prospects get developed, but we also have to be patient with them. And this goes more to the fans than Brian Cashman. The fans have obviously been built up that Volpe is going to be the next Derek Jeter, which is unfair. Let Volpe be Anthony Volpe. Right. Let Anthony Volpe be the next Anthony Volpe. That's all I'm asking him to do. Just be the best that he can be, right? And I don't like comparisons. It's not fair on him. I mean, the way that the Yankees have managed this is not fair on him, where they've passed up on every one of the best shortstops in the game over the last couple of years in free agency in order to pave a golden path for him. Don't think that's the easiest way for him to develop. But when he's ready to go, Yankee fans have to be patient, because there's going to be some months where he's not going to hit too well, but then there's going to be months where he's going to hit the cover off the ball. That's baseball, Susan. So let's be patient, and it'll be absolutely fine. I'm really confident in these guys.
Right. I absolutely hate him calling him the next Jeter, because he's got the work ethic that Jeter had. He wants to be a Yankee and all that. That's great. Fine. But to expect this kid, because the expectations are already through the roof, now you got people saying he's going to be the next Jeter. I think that's unfair, because if he struggles, like you mentioned, I go back to our most recent, I guess, guy that developed into a good player, Gleyber Torres, right? When he came up, he couldn't hit at all. He struggled out of the gate, and then he finally got going. And he was really young too. When they called him up, he was 21, I think. So it's kind of similar. And I see Volpe following that similar path, where he's going to come up. He's probably going to struggle a little bit, but you got to be patient, because if you want this kid to play, and a lot of people want him to play right out of the gate, you got to be patient with him. So I do not like to paint him as the next Jeter. Let him be, like you said, the first and only Anthony Volpe. Unless he has a kid and it's Anthony Volpe Jr. and he becomes a major league player. But let Anthony Volpe be him, because if you think he's going to be Jeter, you're going to be disappointed, because there is never going to be another Derek Jeter. Not even Aaron Judge is Derek Jeter, and he's our captain now. So
that's why Derek Jeter is in the Mount Rushmore of all-time Yankees. There's no going to be another Derek Jeter. You just have to accept it. I miss Derek Jeter. Please believe me, he's my guy. But it's kind of similar as comparing Daniel Jones to Eli Manning. It's not fair on Daniel Jones. Let Daniel Jones be Daniel Jones rather than comparing him to the GOAT of giant quarterbacks. Let him be. And now that the fan base is kind of allowing him to be who he is, he's starting to start to show who he is. So, again, same thing with the Yankees. But I also don't want to just hand him shortstop, which I think the Yankees are kind of doing. Right. I want them to really give Peraza a really good shot, because I think Peraza is a much better shortstop from what I see. And he's a phenomenal shortstop, Peraza. Phenomenal.
Right.
I want to give him that chance.
I think they feel like Peraza's got the tools to move more so than Volpe. So Peraza's arm is really good. So is Volpe. So maybe they want Peraza at second. Right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe they want him at third, for all we know, because his arm is so good. Maybe they feel like because they've used him in so many different positions at different times throughout his minor league career, that maybe he's the one that can make that shift easier to third base, instead of saying, okay, well, Volpe, we're going to play you at short, in AAA, and then when you come up, you're going to play second. Where Peraza's already played second at the major league level, and he's looked fine in the handful of games he had there. So maybe that's their thought process, but I do agree. I would rather Peraza, if he's going to start at shortstop, stay there. But what they should do is, even if Volpe tears the cover off the ball in the spring, they should use him at different positions. Use the spring and the first month or so of minor league baseball to try him out at second. If he plays second base really well, when he's ready to come up, there's your second baseman. And then maybe you can move Gleyber Torres from a position of strength for a position of need. Things like that have happened before. So
let's get into some more questions. Right. Respond on. Okay, Tony, will Mr. Hicks be in the lineup on opening day? God, I hope not. I mean, I literally pray every day that he isn't. Spence, what improvements do you want to see in the Apple TV Plus Yankee broadcasts? I've got a really good improvement. Don't do them anymore.
Right.
That would be my improvement.
They suck.
They're the worst, and their broadcasters are awful. Literally, hey, if they want to ask us to do it, I'm more than happy to do it, because their broadcasters are terrible. They've never seen a baseball game in their lives. Awful broadcast. Good channel. There's some really good shows on that channel, but it ain't for baseball.
No.
Okay. I liked Cameron Maben, and we'll miss him calling games on Yes. How do you feel about his departure? Delighted. I didn't think he was very good at all. I think he's a really nice guy, but I didn't think he was a good announcer.
I mean, he had moments where he was okay, but I don't know. I'm not going to really sweat over the loss of Cameron Maben. Although I would like a little shakeup in the booth, because I'm getting tired of the same three. I just desperately want Ruocco to take over at some point, because I'm getting sick of Michael K's voice. So I'm not going to, but I don't want to go into a whole spiel about that. I think the whole booth needs a shakeup. So.
I do agree, because listen, I'm no fan of the Mets, but they've got much better an analysis from the Mets booth than the Yankees have right now. I mean, Michael Kay is the GOAT, no problem there. But he needs a little bit of help right there. Because if David Cone ain't doing it, and if Paul O'Neill is out on one day, they need another announcer in there. So why don't they try a thing where they have Ruocco in the same booth as Michael Kay? And then because then you're going to have another really strong baseball guy there. And then you can mix in either David Cone and Paul O'Neill, regardless how they do it, John Flaherty, whatever. But Filippelli's right, man. He needed to shake this up. Hopefully Beltran's no longer in the booth. I don't believe he will be. I think John Filippelli is the yes boss. He knows his shit, so I trust him. Listen, I like Maben as a guy. I think Maben's a really nice guy. I think he brought a lot of energy, but he just wasn't good. And if he was good, he'd be brought back this year. He wasn't good. He just wasn't. He said some really dumb, very just vanilla things. His takes were very average. You need a little bit more spice in the booth, so I think it's the right thing to do. What up, Jigga Man? Your new show on NYY News is killing it. Congratulations. Okay, Met fans, since.
Oh, Nikki.
Yo, damn, been a while. Good job. Thank you for coming in. Would you have any interest in trading Volpe and Cabrera for Neil Cruz and Reynolds? Absolutely not. There are no circumstances. But I do want Reynolds, but I think that we need to find another package.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade Volpe. I'm not trading him unless the player is like Ohtani or something. I'm not trading Anthony Volpe.
I love David Cone. He's the GOAT. I grew up with him pitching. He should be in the Hall of Fame as a pitcher, in my opinion. He was freaking amazing. And he also should be a pitching coach somewhere. I would like him to be a pitching coach for the Yankees, to be honest. I think he's a freaking brilliant baseball mind. Absolutely brilliant. Tony Clark, you blew over this question. So, Tony getting a little bit. Okay. You blew over this. So I'll ask again. Will the Orioles, who cares? It's a Yankees show.
Yeah.
All right. Any other Yankee questions?
The reason we passed it over, the irrelevant franchise question from the irrelevant fan. I'll say this. I do think they have a shot. I don't think they will, though. I think there's too much competition ahead of them right now in the AL. I think they'll be there as soon as next season. Although I wouldn't be surprised if they make it. But there's your answer, Tony. Go find an Orioles podcast to ask the question to.
That's my guy. That's my guy. Any other Yankee questions? So, okay, so what are we going to do with this situation? Infield, outfield? How are you going to approach it? And two-pronged question. How do you feel now about this trade for Montas?
One, there's a question here from Elliot. He said, which pitcher and which hitter will be most impacted by the time clock? Well, I don't know if it's coming to the major league this year. I know it's in the minor leagues for sure, but I'm not sure. Not Nestor. I don't know if any of our pitchers will really be affected by the time clock. None of our guys are really slow pitchers.
Yeah, I would say so. I think we'll be okay with that regard. So back to my question. Well, first of all, how do you feel about this Montas trade now?
I said it in the show on Tuesday. I still think it was a good trade because we needed a pitcher. Everyone wanted a pitcher. And I know Waldichuk is a good arm, but none of the prospects we gave up for Montas are top 100 guys. They're not tops, and they weren't tops in our organization, and they weren't getting you Brian Reynolds. And that's what people keep bringing up. They said you could have saved those arms to go get Brian Reynolds. No, they want top pitching prospects. Waldichuk is good, but for us, he was our top pitching prospect. For another team, he's probably like their fourth best pitching prospect. They want a Bobby Miller type of arm for Brian Reynolds. That's not Ken Waldichuk. I like Waldichuk a lot, but people are acting like we gave up these premier prospects for Montas, who, by the way, is a really good pitcher. I think it's more on the fault of the team trading for an injured guy and then making him pitch through it. That's their fault. I don't think the trade was bad. If we got a healthy Montas, then no one's going to be complaining, but he's pitching hurt. And that's on the team for continuing to pitch him hurt. And what did you expect him to be lights out when he's got a shoulder inflammation? I still make that trade if he's healthy.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to respectfully disagree because I'm also considering the Scott Effross trade where we traded away our number 7 ranked prospect, Hayden Wesneski. So we traded him. Then in order to get someone else that was injured, and Frankie Montas, it cost us Waldichuk, Luis Medina, JP Sears. So JP Sears obviously was our 20th ranked prospect. Luis Medina was our top 10 ranked prospect. And Waldichuk was our number 5 ranked prospect. So guess what? What do the Pirates desperately need from us right now in order to make a trade go through? It was very much pitching. So if you added Waldichuk and you added those names, Wesneski, you added those names to a package, they'd be a lot more interested than they are right now because we basically traded a bunch of our B-plus prospects for 2 guys that are hurt.
Well, Effross wasn't hurt when we got him. He was our best relief pitcher until he got hurt. That's not fair.
Pretty quick, and it was TJ surgery, so that's a big problem now.
But it's not like we traded for him when he was hurt, though. That's what people are. It's like you traded for 200 players. He got hurt post-trade. He was our best relief pitcher when we got him. You can't paint that on people are going to use that against Cashman. Effross was fantastic for us before he got hurt. That's not fair.
He had issues. I was more concerned about the fact that Montas was definitely injured when we acquired him. Definitely 100% hurt when we acquired him. And I remember I said that on the show, and Tats shouted me down saying that wasn't true. But yes, he was hurt when we acquired him. His arm was 100% shot when we acquired him. So whether that's Brian Cashman, who wasn't reading his medical stuff properly, or the A's sold us a dud, I don't know what it was, but Billy Beane absolutely fleeced Brian Cashman. He absolutely did. So we need those guys now. We definitely need those guys right now. On Montas, what is it that everybody sees that I don't see? As however, I don't begrudge it, but I'm not surprised these problems are happening. Yeah, I agree, man. I don't know if he's the new Carl Pavano because I do like his stuff. I never liked Pavano's stuff, but there's a reason why he's got a 5 ERA outside of outside of the Oakland Coliseum, which was the biggest freaking place in the world. It was the size of a state, so no wonder he had a nice small ERA. But in Yankee Stadium, he was getting hit pretty hard. But again, that's probably because of the fact that his shoulder was shot. So it was a bad trade. We traded a bunch of our key prospects. And listen, this is the situation that we're in now because he made these trades and two guys now are seriously hurt and we've lost 3 or 4 of our top arms. That means that if you want to acquire a star left fielder or an upgrade and things like that, we can't now because we don't want to get rid of Volpe. You don't want to get rid of Peraza. So what are teams going to want? And that's the thing. That's the problem because the Yankees don't seem to want to get rid of Dominguez either. So like other teams are going to be like, well, what are you going to give us? How am I going to give you Brian Reynolds if you're not going to give us anything in return? And that's the situation because if the Yankees held on to some of those arms, then it wouldn't be a problem. I think we would have gotten them if we combined. I also thought the Efros trade was a little shaky. I wouldn't have given up a prized arm for Efros.
I don't know if he was a prize, but at that point, you're talking about giving up 5 or 6 players for one. Like, is Brian Reynolds? I like Brian Reynolds a lot, but is he worth 6 prospects? Because Wesneski, Waldichuk, Sears would have all had to go to Pittsburgh. That's still not enough from what they're asking. You probably have to give them a Peraza and then maybe somebody else. You're talking about 4 or 5 guys for one player. That's what the Nationals got for Juan frickin' Soto. Brian Reynolds is not Juan Soto. I'm sorry. I like Brian Reynolds a lot, and he would obviously be our second or third best player on this team. But it's not. I'm not giving up 5 players for one unless it's a true superstar. I would have done that trade left immediately. I would have given up Volpe for Juan Soto. I said it last year, but I'm not giving up 5 or 6 players for Brian Reynolds. I'm not doing it, and I still don't think those arms as a package just in itself is enough because none of those guys equal what they want for Reynolds. They want premier pitching prospects. So you're talking about giving them those 3. Sears, who was just a 5 or 6 major league ready arm. Okay, great. Wesneski, Waldichuk, maybe you give them Medina. Then they're still going to want one of your top guys because none of those guys were our top 4 or 5
well,
prospects.
maybe if you gave them Dominguez, maybe that would have been enough to get them over the top. But the thing is, Dominguez isn't enough to get him over the top as it is now. But had they used some of those arms, saved some of those arms, and used it for a Reynolds trade, I think we'd be a lot closer. Because otherwise, what are Pittsburgh going to want from us? If we're not going to get rid of our top guys. So that's kind of why the Yankees are in this holding motion right now. And yeah, it's true here. FJ is spot on, man. I'm annoyed that Cashman keeps trading for injured players. This is his motto. I think that he likes players that are hurt because he thinks it's going to cost them less prospects, and he hopes that we can rehabilitate them and get them ready to rock and roll, and we get them for a cheap price. I think that's probably what he's thinking. But this has been his MO for a long time, and it's been backfiring.
I mean, we talked about it the other day, me and Tats, and we said that a lot of his trades are good ones, and he's had some bad ones, but people are starting to compare the Montas trade to Donaldson and IKF. That's just not fair. I still think he had a great deadline because Efros, you can't predict that he's going to get hurt because he wasn't hurt at the time. He was good. He was really good, and we needed bullpen help. We got bullpen help. For a guy like as in Wesneski, who probably wasn't going to make this team anyway, and he was a Rule 5 guy. Okay, you make that trade. Efros eventually gets hurt. You can't predict that. Montas, I can see because he was already hurt at the time, but none of us were complaining about the trade at the time. We liked Montas. We wanted him. He said, if you can't get Castillo and you can get Montas, great. So that's what I don't like is that the fans were like, go get this guy. And then when you got him and now they're souring on it and now it's like they've done a complete 180. I don't like that. Stick to what you said at first. We can be angry that it's turned out this way, but we can't now say, oh, that was just a terrible trade. It's just a terrible trade. Cashman has no idea what he's doing. When we were saying it was a good move back in July when we made it.
Yeah, but that's without knowing his medical records. I mean, we knew that he was not really pitching when we traded for him because of his shoulder. So that is on Brian Cashman. We don't have his medical records. It would have been a good move had he pitched effectively and he wasn't hurt, but he didn't pitch effectively and he was hurt. So it wasn't a good move. It's as simple as that, unfortunately. And now we're kind of short on pitching prospects. And it didn't work. And his deadline didn't work. Everybody that he acquired got hurt, apart from Bader. Bader worked out, but Benintendi got hurt and he didn't come back. And so, yeah, we've lost a lot of prospects for a deadline that just didn't work. And he had the worst offseason of all time. And so it was a very bad year for Brian Cashman, but we gave him a new 4-year contract. So what can you do? What can you do?
The thing is that we were praising his deadline, though. You can't predict injuries. Like Benintendi, maybe it's a problem with the organization, right? Maybe the problem with why are so many players coming to us, Montas aside, but Efros gets hurt the second he comes over. Benintendi gets hurt the second he comes over after playing pretty much 2 straight seasons of barely having anything wrong with him. Is it something that the Yankees are doing wrong? Maybe it's their athletic team. What is going on there? But we can't say last year, man, Cashman had such a good deadline. He made some good trades. He got pieces that we needed. And now, because those players ended up getting hurt while playing, we're going to attack the guy. We didn't trade for an injured Benintendi. We didn't trade for an injured Efros. We traded for an injured Montas. Attack that. Okay, fine. I still like the trade because I think Montas is really good and we needed another pitcher. But I'm not going to say his deadline was bad all of a sudden because these players just happened to get hurt for us. It turned out poorly, but I still, if I can go back in time and say, look, we need an outfielder. We gave up nothing for Benintendi. I needed a starting pitcher. I needed a relief pitcher. We got 2 of them. I sign up for that every single time. Cashman got what we needed to try to make a push. Unfortunately, those players got hurt. It's part of the game. It happens every single year where players get hurt. It just so happens for us, 2 of the players that we got in a trade, 3 of them ended up not being a factor for us down the stretch. So I can't now turn around and say I hated the deadline because I liked it at the time. And I still think you make those moves when you need to make that push. Benintendi on our roster would have helped us maybe at least win 1 or 2 games against the Astros of how good he is against them, especially in the playoffs. But you can't predict injuries. Because if you do that, if you're trying to say he could get hurt, you're not going to make any moves. You're not going to sign any players. You're just going to be too passive. You have to take those risks. Unfortunately, 2 of those guys got hurt while playing for us, and the other one re-aggravated an already injured arm. It's part of the game. The Montas trade is the only one I can say, in hindsight, it was a bad one. But I can't predict that Efros is going to need Tommy John. I can't predict that Benintendi is going to get hurt so bad that he's not going to play for us the rest of the way through. I can't do that.
No, I mean, listen, I did the Benintendi trade 100 times out of 100. We didn't give up anything for him. My only question regarding Benintendi was the Yankees didn't look like they knew what they were doing with him. And that's another thing. Like, why would you acquire someone that they didn't really have necessarily a plan as to how to utilize him effectively? So
right.
That's another thing. I was just like, I'm not quite sure. I just felt like they were kind of panicking a little bit. The Montas trade obviously hasn't worked. Efros, to be fair, you are right. He had a 2.13 ERA as a Yankee. So we're just hoping that he comes back healthy very soon. But it's tough to swallow losing all these top pitching prospects. I liked Luis Medina. I think Medina had a future as a Yankee. So we just have to wait and see. Let's get to FJ's question regarding Bader. Do you think the Yankees should extend Bader? Would that create an outfield glut when Dominguez and Jones are ready?
I don't know if they extend Bader because he's got 1 year left, and if he performs like he did as he has in his career, he's kind of that perfect stopgap. He's going to get a pretty big contract elsewhere, and I think Dominguez is going to be ready at some point next season, and Spencer Jones could be right behind him. Because Spencer Jones, they're already comparing him to Judge in terms of how ready he is, because he's already played college ball. So I don't think that we're going to extend Bader. If it's for another year with an option, sure, but I don't think it's going to be some 3-4 year deal.
Yeah, I want to see how it plays out. I wouldn't get overly, I wouldn't jump the gun on Bader, but what Bader's provided in a short sample size, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. But I'm not going to jump just yet. But listen, we only have 2 outfielders right now, and there's 3 spots in the outfield. But Brian Cashman seems to have missed the memo on that because we don't have a left fielder. So listen, if Dominguez and Jones want to get ready as soon as possible, and they want to fill in a left field, and then I'll be more than happy to consider that. No, I like Bader. I want to see what he can do. The Yankees have a policy of not extending people mid-season anyway, so we'll have Bader for a full year. If he has a healthy, productive year, then I can't see any reason why we wouldn't give him maybe a three-year deal, something like that, because he plays center. He's strictly a center fielder,
Right.
And then there's still a spot in the corner outfielders, and there's not really a corner outfielder that's coming through.
Except for Spencer Jones.
That's really Spencer Jones. So
maybe they move Pereira, and I still think Dominguez is going to be a center fielder in the majors. A lot of people think he'll move to left or have to be left field because Judge isn't right. But I want Dominguez in center when he's coming up.
I have questions about Dominguez though, because his body type doesn't look like it's a fit for center field.
Maybe that's why they see him in left. But then what do you do with Jones?
It's just his body type, man. Like I want someone who's like more athletic and longer legs and that can chase down our very, very deep center field. I kind of want that more. Little concerned about his body type. I'm not entirely sure yet because I've not seen that kind of body type in center field before.
I mean, there's still a chance that he maybe drops a little weight potentially and he's quick. He's still a pretty quick guy considering he doesn't really look like it, but he can move. I've been following him since we picked him up, and I can't wait for it. I still think he's going to be in center. They'll try him out there because they're not moving him around the minors. So I think he'll be okay, but if they have to move him to left, that's going to raise the question, what do you do with Spencer Jones?
If there was a guy that I would trade as the headline deal for Brian Reynolds, it would be Dominguez, in my opinion. Tony, will Yankee fans be mad with Judge if he doesn't hit 60? No. I have him at 45 this season, which is still our killer, in my opinion. Okay, well, I'll
celebrate.
I'll jump at this one. He's right. 45 is a killer year. If we get 40, 45 out of Aaron Judge, you're never going to complain. Now, I'm sure there will be Yankee fans that are young, that are maybe like 20 or 21 and go, why didn't he hit 60? Right. Just to remind these fans that maybe haven't seen enough ball over the last few decades, 60 is an outlier, people. That's a generational year. It's one of those years that you're only going to see once in a lifetime, right? We were privileged and we were blessed to have seen it last year. We're not going to see it this year. There's a good chance that maybe Judge gets a 50 burger, and that would be awesome if he hits 50, but he ain't hitting 60 again. It's an exhausting, hard thing to do. You need to stay healthy over 162 games to even think about that, and it's very hard to do. So yeah, it's not happening. If at the end of the day, what I want from Aaron Judge is the playoffs. That's at the end of the day, he can hit 40, fine. I don't care. It's the playoffs that matter. That's what he's been brought here for. He's brought here for his leadership, his awesome outfield, and he'll give you 40 home runs, 290, 300 batting average. He gives you that. You'll never hear a complaint from me whatsoever. Right. Is Montas going into the season healthy? No. Absolutely not. No. He's had to be shut down. His shoulder shot. They're saying that he's going to be reevaluated about 4 to 6 weeks from the start of the year, from the start of the regular season. So then you'd also have to add that he'll need, if all goes well and his shoulder is ready to go,
extended
4 to 6 weeks, then he'll need to have a new spring training. And that will be another 6 weeks to 2 months. So listen, you'll be very lucky to see Montas before July, in my opinion. And that's generally the consensus anyway. LA Yankee King. So is it time to give me my flowers that Brian Cashman is a bottom 5 GM that I've been saying since 2018? Been proven right year after year. I wouldn't say he's the bottom 5. I'd say he's middle of the pack.
I think he's still one. I mean, I don't even like Brian Cashman. The fact that you're saying he's a bottom 5, you're telling me there's 25 GMs that are better than him? LI, don't do this.
Yeah, it's a tough sell, but I think he's definitely not top 5.
No. Because
Or
if
top
he was
10.
if he was top 5 or top 10, we'd have a championship by now. But to say he's bottom 5, that's just a little over the top.
I think he's probably slightly better than middle of the pack.
How is he top? I'm not doing this. He's got another question here. My bad.
They moved Spencer Jones to first because Dane Huber has said on NYY News TV, we can't tell me John Sargent and Healer time to play first while rehabbing.
That is probably the most logical switch to first base you've ever come up with, because you've said Judge and Stanton should move to first base at some point. That one I can actually see happening because he's already learned it while rehabbing. So maybe, but I still think they want him as an outfielder moving forward. So in the future, which could be the next year potentially, Dominguez in center, Jones in left, Judge in right could be your future outfield. However, if they're concerned about that arm, move to first base, but you need a true Gold Glover at first if you're going to have a good infield, because we've seen it before. When we had Teixeira, the infield was brilliant. We see it with Rizzo. The infield is great, brilliant. When we had Tino, when we had Mattingly, even though I didn't really see Mattingly play that much, but you saw it with Luke Voit and Greg Bird that weren't really good defensive first basemen, just how different it is. I think he's going to be in left field. And unless he needs to switch to first base, he's going to be in left field.
Oh dear. You just brought up Greg Bird. I never want to think about him again. Greg Bird. What a guy.
Rizzo can teach Jones first. He can teach him, but it's not like he's going to end up being Rizzo. Tino Martinez can teach me everything about first base. Doesn't mean I'm going to pick it up immediately. There's a big difference. He has to, he's a big dude. He's he's Judge's height. He's 6'7", right?
He is a big dude. I've really liked what I've seen from him. He's been hitting the cover off the ball last year.
Yeah, so I mean there's a lot of questions there. I mean, unless it's an absolute necessity because of that arm, I don't see him switching to first base. I still think at some point next year, we could even see Jones as soon as this year. That's how close people think he's going to be. I don't think it'll happen, but next year, Dominguez and Jones are the guys you're going to watch. Like this year, it's Peraza and Volpe as the guys that could be coming up, maybe even Austin Wells. Next year, you got Jones and Dominguez that are right there with them. And they're fighting again. There goes Brad and LI arguing. I don't know. I don't think he's a bottom 5 GM. And I don't even like Brian Cashman, but you're not going to see me calling him bottom of the barrel, because the fact that he's been able to get us good players for relatively nothing, like he got us Stanton for nothing. He got us Rizzo for nothing. He got us Wandy Peralta for Mike Tauchman, who's playing in Japan or Korea right now. So, I mean, come on now. Like there's a lot of great moves that he's made. There's good moves, and there's bad ones. Look, he's been here for too long. I will say that. I would rather him not be here, but I'm not going to call him a bottom 5 GM.
We shouldn't have given him a 4-year deal. It's a weird. No. It's really weird when you brought in Sabian and to try and like make him more competent. It's kind of a weird. It's a weird dynamic going on, but no, he's definitely not bottom 5. I still think that he's got the Yankees' best interests at heart. He works really hard. What I'll say with Brian Cashman is he's 24/7, dude. Like he goes at it 24/7. He never takes a break. But yeah, listen, the fact that he took credit for the fact that he gave. He basically contacted Hal Steinbrenner to say to tie down Aaron Judge. It's hilarious to me. You know what I mean? Because Brian Cashman is the reason why we got in that predicament with Aaron Judge in the first place. And it took a 3:30 in the morning phone call from Hal Steinbrenner to bring Aaron Judge back. So it's really funny that he sort of kind of took credit for Hal Steinbrenner bailing him out. But that's just Brian Cashman. It is what it is at this point. But let's
Elliott.
Oh, that's a good one. What are your predictions for next week's Hall of Fame? I don't know what to predict, but if I had a vote, my ballot would be blank. Not kidding. Really? So
I don't like that, Elliott.
You wouldn't
really
have
don't.
A-Rod. You wouldn't have Bonds. You wouldn't have Clemens. You wouldn't have
Aren't they off the ballot, Clemens and Bonds? They're off now, right?
Pettit. I think they were in. I mean, let's bring up the most recent ballot.
At least Jimmy Rollins. I think Jimmy Rollins is getting in. But the fact, I don't know. I just don't like that the people that
That's a good question, though.
It is. I just don't like that people leave their ballots blank. I think
I hate that. Really hate that.
Because you're telling me that, okay, you don't want to put the steroid guys in, fine. I still don't agree with that, but you're telling me that none of those other players should make it in. That's a little bit unfair to those guys to say that I'm not saying you, Elliott, but like these writers that didn't play the game are saying, I don't think Jimmy Rollins is a Hall of Famer. I'm not going to let him get in. I don't think this guy's a Hall of Famer. It's stupid that the steroid guys are not in because that was a stage of the game where the league made so much damn money. But I don't like them. They leave it blank and they post it on Twitter and they go like, look what I did. I can't stand
God, I hate that. I really do. All right. So Billy Wagner is obviously a consideration.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What we got? So Barry Bonds, Clemens, Schilling, all dropped off. But I mean, why wouldn't you consider A-Rod?
He is a Hall of Famer. It's because of the steroids. That's all it is. It's the steroid thing. Just like Bonds, just like Clemens.
Gary Sheffield. You wouldn't consider Sheff? I'd consider Sheff. I think Sheff is borderline. Awesome player. Scott Rowland, terrific third baseman. Todd Helton, I think a lot of his stats came from Coors Field. Very good hitter, though. Andrew Jones, no, I'm good with Andrew. Billy Wagner, good closer. Jeff Kent. Bobby Abreu, no. Mark Burley, no. I wouldn't consider them. But there's guys that are worthy of consideration, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't leave it blank. I would definitely. Well, I personally would go and get A-Rod in there. Bonds should have been in there, but
none of the candidates fit into my definition of a Hall of Famer. Okay, can I ask what your definition of a Hall of Famer is?
To me, Manny Ramirez should get in. Torrey Hunter would be a good choice. Billy Wagner should be in there. Rowland as well.
What is the definition of a Hall of Famer? If Curt Schilling isn't a Hall of Famer, Roger Clemens isn't a Hall of Famer, A-Rod isn't a Hall of Famer, then what on earth is a Hall of Famer?
Right. And even Tony says that right here. Billy Wagner and Todd Helton are going to be in. I think they should be. I think Wagner should definitely get in. I don't know if Helton will, but Billy Wagner should definitely get in. If nobody gets elected this year, they need to take everybody's rights away to vote and give it out to a fan vote or let the players vote, because I'm sick of players not getting the recognition. I know what Bonds did. I get it. But you're telling me that he, even without the steroids, wasn't a Hall of Famer? A-Rod, if you take – I said it on a show way back. You take his name and you look at his stat sheet and go, is that a Hall of Famer? 1,000% Alex Rodriguez should be a unanimous Hall of Famer. But because they know what he did, he's not going to get in. And that's unfair. That's unfair because would he have hit less home runs with the steroids? Yeah, of course. But he was still going to hit like 35, 40 a year. He was still going to have a Hall of Fame career without them. He only hit like 50 plus twice, I think.
That's exactly it. Yeah, I mean, it's the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of Nice Guys. So listen, do I particularly like Curt Schilling as a person? No. Do I like his personality? Absolutely not. But was he a wonderful pitcher? Absolutely. He should be in the Hall of Fame. Roger Clemens. I until it's absolutely 100% proven that he cheated his entire career, which I don't believe he did, he is a Hall of Fame pitcher. The guy pitched in his 40s and was awesome. Guy won MVPs, Cy Youngs, incredible. He was the Rocket. He was an absolute pleasure to watch every 5 days. He was an absolute monster. Honestly, these fans that just rely on, oh, he took steroids, so it doesn't matter. Then he's out of the picture. Give me a break. That guy was a Hall of Famer with or without steroids. Same with A-Rod. My God, A-Rod was a phenomenal shortstop, phenomenal third baseman, and he hit millions of home runs and was MVP and won a championship. What do you want? I mean, guy is a Hall of Famer, for crying out loud.
So A-Rod harmed the game. He did harm the game, but still the game benefited from A-Rod harming the game. So did, Major League Baseball turned a blind eye. They knew McGwire and Sosa and A-Rod and Bonds and all these guys were cheating because what they were doing was just so unheard of. To have that many players be in the home run chase at once, it wasn't happening ever before, and it won't happen ever again. But they didn't care until they had to care. They had to care. They collected all the, you can call that blood money for all, I don't care, call it whatever you want. Major League Baseball benefited, and it's something that Tony brought in. Pete Rose should be in.
Of course.
Pete Rose should be a Hall of Famer, but they won't let him back in. So I understand what you're saying, Elliot. Integral. So Bonds was too. He's got the single season home run record. He's got the all-time home run record.
That's the thing. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, their records remain, but they're not going to get into the Hall of Fame because they cheated. Well, if you're going to keep their records remaining intact, like Barry Bonds is the home run king, then I'm sorry, he's going to have to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, if you want to have an asterisk or you want to have something underneath, or if you want to induct him, but maybe not straight as a Hall of Famer, but just say these records are as they are, this guy's done this, that you need to have some kind of recognition. These people need to have some kind of recognition. At the end of the day, in the 90s and the early thousands, about 80% of all baseball players were taking steroids. That is just what it was. That's just a fact. That's how people were doing it, and it wasn't all because of cheating, because Andy Pettitte took it. It wasn't because he was cheating. A lot of it was due to longevity. A lot of it was due to the fact that they're being asked to play 162 games in over like a span of like 200 days. It's an exhausting process. It's very hard to do. And yeah, sometimes you need a little bit of artificial help to do it. I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying that's why 80% of people were doing it in order to compete with everybody else, because that's how you get your money. That's how you get paid, and that's how you raise your family. So there was a lot of reasons for it. Just look at the cycling industry, right? Now they've. I'm no cycling fan, but they obviously villainized Lance Armstrong. You telling me he was the only cyclist to do steroids? Bullshit.
Yep.
Bullshit. Of course, in order for people to be able to cycle over those kind of amount of days without freaking dropping dead, you need a little bit of artificial help. And so that's the thing, man. It's you can't just make money out of these people and then villainize them right after. So I'll always stand by that. At the end of the day, Chuck Knobloch was on steroids. How many more home runs did he hit?
That's a great point.
So it doesn't make you hit home runs.
Yeah, and FJ brings a good point. Ortiz is in. So
yeah,
they're picking and choosing. And I don't.
It's the Hall of Nice Guys. It's not the Hall of Fame.
They're picking and choosing who they want. Because Ortiz, even though he did it, he wasn't like denying it or anything. That's probably what it was. He didn't deny it. All these other guys denied it. So the baseball writers have this power, but I do have to go. I don't know if Donald, if you want to stay on and keep the chat going, but I have to run. So I'll leave it up to you. Do you want to keep going and I'll pop out, or do you want to close it out there?
I mean, I'm happy to leave it to the chat. If anybody else has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer for the next few minutes. But otherwise, I think we can wrap it up.
All right, then. Can't put average guys like Rollins in. They're going to put whoever they want at this point. But that is gonna wrap it up, unless people do have more questions for Donald. But that is gonna wrap it up for us here at the Pinstripe Chronicles. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone that was here, we got a heck of a lot.
That was a fun idea. I think we should maybe do this more often.
We should.
I think maybe open it up to the chat, get people asking questions and all that stuff. But what I will ask is anyone that hasn't already done so, please subscribe and please share it out to your friends and all that stuff. We'd really appreciate it. We'll continue to try and grow the channel for you guys. Absolutely.
Be sure to do all that good stuff. Follow us on Twitter, follow the Instagram page. And we just want to give a shout out to Bobby Tats, our third co-host. We're not going to put out information out there, but we love you, Tats, and we hope to see you again soon. And we will see you all again very soon next week, Tuesday. Maybe we'll do another Q&A because probably not going to be anything else to talk about. But until next time, we will see you all later. And as
shout out, Elliot. Thanks so much for the questions.
And as Bobby Tats.
Appreciate it, Spence. Awesome, man. Awesome as usual. Thanks so much for the questions, everybody.
And as Bobby Tats always says, wear your pinstripes of pride and play hard.